Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to stop acting as if my fiancé were her son's dad? My 24 female sister, 23 female, had my nephew Joe during her first year in college. The father is absent in his life and only pays child support. She has always hated the idea of my nephew growing without a father figure, and since our only brother is 17 and our dad passed away 10 years ago, she dated recklessly for a while and introduced him to a bunch of dudes. 3 years ago, I met my now fiancé, Gabriel, 28 male. He's really sweet and adores my family. He's financially stable and is good with kids, has a bunch of nephews on his own and comes from a good, big family. We've decided to be child-free, and if something happens to my sister and a few of Gabe's siblings, we're meant to be their legal guardians. But for the past year, my sister has grown comfortable with pushing Joe around Gabe. She always invites him to my nephew's activities, which is fine, but she acts as if Gabe were her guest and I'm his +1, not otherwise. Plus, my brother used to be the one who got invited and he's not anymore. She asks Gabe to drive her and Joe to places, and my mom pointed out how they look like a family when he does it. She jokes about how much of a dad Gabriel is for Joe, and she had the audacity to ask him once if he was comfortable with adopting Joe, but she was drunk, so I'll give her that. Neither Gabe or I are comfortable with this. He doesn't know how to push it aside without hurting their feelings. Mom has told my sister countless times how this is inappropriate, but my sister always gets defensive and says that Joe chose him and it's not her fault. Things blew up last weekend when Joe asked Gabriel if he could call him dad, because Mom said it was fine. My sister was looking at them with the biggest smile on her face, and I could notice how my mom and my brother were expecting his answer. Neither of them agree with it too. He sat Joe in his knee and kindly explained him how he wasn't his dad or even a dad figure, that he was Anne's soon-to-be husband, and that made him his favorite uncle. But that even if he wasn't his dad, he would never leave him and they'll always be best friends. Joe, being the sweet kid he is, laughed and smiled and said that it was okay. Then he ran to the living room to play with something. I think the situation resolved itself just fine, but my sister didn't like it and started to fight with us. My mom kept telling her to shut up, but she was saying things like, "What's wrong with you two? How can you say no to a little kid? He sees you as a father, so you should be proud of that." I had enough, but I told her that Gabriel wasn't Joe's dad, and that she needed to stop acting as if he was because it was honestly embarrassing. She called me a selfish C-word and said that I was jealous of her kid. I just rolled my eyes and we decided to leave after her. She later sent me a text saying that it was best if we step out of Joe's life for a while, or we will end up confusing him because he doesn't understand that Gabriel is not daddy. But as far as I could see, he got it pretty well. Added to Dwed, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that we're already Joe's legal guardians. But if something happens to my sister, and we hope it never does, we'll be taking care of him. Also, my sister is not right. I agree with that, but I doubt she ever gets violent." Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, but you know your sister wants your fiancé, right? This right here. Sister is absolutely going to try to get fiancé to dump OP, if she hasn't already. As far as I know, she has never tried something like that. Neither my mom, Gabe, or I think that my sister might be emotionally interested in my fiancé. She only wants him as my nephew's father, but I don't think she's in love with him or something like that. I find it hard to believe she'd be pushing the dad angle without having any romantic interest in him. In any case, she could probably use some therapy to help with whatever issue she's dealing with. A normal person doesn't see their sister's fiancé as a viable father for their kid. Not the a-hole. Watch your sister. She is fantasizing about your boyfriend, and you aren't part of that fantasy. She's creating her own little family. Yikes. Poor Gabe. Also, poor Joe. The kid seems like a good one, but his mom will keep dragging him into these self-made miserable situations and keep pushing him towards emotional pain and turmoil. Not stay hollow P, but keep a discreet eye out for Joe. He's really an awesome kid, always laughing and playing. As hard as it may seem, my sister is a hell of a mother too. She takes excellent care for Joe. It's just the father issue that set her off. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she will never see my child?" Not really my mother-in-law, but girlfriend's mom. My girlfriend Ella and I have been together for almost 4 years now, and we are expecting our first child later on this year. Ella's 5 months pregnant. As much as I love Ella, I cannot stand her family, especially her mother. From the stories I've heard and from my own experiences with her mother seems to be an extremely disrespectful person. Because of her attitude, Ella has significantly cut contact with most of her family. We also didn't really tell them that we were pregnant, but they found out through Ella's cousin. Upon hearing about Ella's pregnancy, Ella's mom has been pestering us about inviting us to dinner to congratulate and celebrate our growing family. It's a nice gesture, but I was hesitant to accept because of the way that she and the rest of Ella's family usually act. After almost a month of ignoring the invitation, Ella convinced me to take her up on it. The dinner was held at a very expensive, very fancy fine dining restaurant. At first, to my shock, the dinner was going well. Ella's mom apologized for her past behavior and stated that she wanted to be a good grandmother moving forward. Her sister also offered support in the form of babysitting, old baby clothes, etc. The conversation was friendly, and I was very surprised to not hear anything insulting from Ella's mom directed at Ella. When Ella stepped out to use the washroom, Ella's sister made a comment about her supposed weight gain and offered me diet plans and exercise regimen to prevent her from getting too chunky. Her mom also pitched in about Ella's greedy eating habits. Just to be clear, my girlfriend isn't big. She's very tall and lanky, and even if she was the biggest woman in the universe, their comments would still be unacceptable. Ella's mom and sister also asked me not to tell Ella about our conversation because she's apparently too sensitive. At this point, I wanted to leave. Once Ella came back, I announced that I wanted to leave the dinner early. Her family was surprised and asked me why, and I responded that I didn't see them fit to see my child and I wouldn't want to see them ever again. I was probably very impolite, but in that moment, I didn't care. Her mom was very upset, almost yelling in the restaurant about how I couldn't leave without paying their bill, as I was the man of the table, and how I couldn't make husband demands as a boyfriend. Meaning, I can't forbid a grandmother from seeing her child because I'm not a true family. Again, I didn't care and I left with Ella. I later found out that Ella's mom's card was declined and they were forced to phone a friend to bring some money. Very embarrassing. Ella thinks that I could have been less harsh, because now her sister is spreading rumors about her to the family. Not stay home. So wait, Ella's family invited you to a swanky dinner, expected you to cover everyone's tab, and had zero backup plan for if you declined? Never mind the insulting Ella behind her back drama. That alone makes them the a-holes. Continue to ignore them and focus on getting Ella on the same page with you about what role they're going to be allowed to have in the kid's life and how to draw boundaries, because it doesn't sound like she fully realizes how messed up this all is yet. I think the saddest part about this whole situation is that Ella didn't really react after I told her what they had said about her. Her reaction was more like, "Oh, they're doing this again," as if she's heard it a million times before. All this to say, I think deep down she understands how messed up the situation all is. I think she just has hope that they would change. She's desensitized to it because she's used to this. I mean, this is the nicest way. Your girlfriend needs therapy. It's going to help her understand everything a lot more if she gets an unbiased professional opinion. Because the way her family acts is disgusting and not normal, and she needs to know that. I'm glad you had her back. Good on you, OP. She's already in therapy, and she's working on herself, don't worry. Not stay home. So she invites you to dinner and then expects you to pay. That's rich. Sounds like Karma also joined that dinner party. Not even just a normal dinner. It was a proper, posh restaurant. Did I read at least right that you paid for yourself and Ella? Partly courtesy, but also because I would not want to owe someone like these people a new dime. I did not pay for anyone's meal. I actually just left, which was probably a really horrible thing to do, but I was so mad at that point. Not stay home. They were just being nice to her face in order to get access to the baby. They only messed it up by being snide in front of you when she had gone to the bathroom, showing they hadn't changed in the slightest. I wouldn't be surprised if mother-in-law knew her card would decline and was counting on you to cover the bill too. Maybe you could have handled it a little better, but I don't blame you one iota for what you did. cut them off and leave them cut off. You can't really control what they say about Ella. Anyone with half an ounce of sense will realize it's all BS though. Congratulations on your upcoming arrival, and good luck. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my brother-in-law for babysitting my daughter? I, 34 male, have a 5-year-old daughter. My wife is deceased and my in-laws are my only supporters. Some days ago, I had an appointment with a dentist, and the babysitter who was supposed to watch my daughter called and canceled. I didn't know what to do, so I called my brother-in-law asking if he was willing to watch his niece till I get back from the appointment. He said he wasn't sure since he had a couple of tutoring sessions to get done. I told him to skip and I dropped my daughter off at his apartment then left. When I came back to pick her up in the evening, brother-in-law asked me to pay him for watching my daughter for 4 hours. I was taken aback and asked if he was serious. He reminded me that he had 2 tutoring sessions that he had to cancel last minute. And since I pushed him to stay with my daughter and watch her, then I need to pay him. I refused and said he was being somewhat greedy and an opportunist to even think sitting his niece would grant him easy money. He said it wasn't easy money but time wasted in his very busy schedule. We had an argument and I left with my daughter. He called my in-laws who said that he was in the right and I should have paid him for his time and be appreciative of his efforts. I told them I didn't expect him to ask for money, but they said it's what I do with babysitters. Well, yes, but he's family, and last thing I expect from him is to ask for money for staying with his niece. Besides that, I had an emergency and couldn't miss the appointment knowing how hard it is to get another one. He's still insisting on being paid, and I keep refusing. At this rate, I think he's being ridiculous, but I don't know. It all seems to be a misunderstanding. Say I did pay him. This would set the precedence for him to keep expecting money every time. Am I the a-hole for not paying him? Now for the comments. I forced my brother-in-law to cancel 2 tutoring sessions, losing him money to make him watch my child. Then, instead of offering to cover the money lost, I refused because family equals free labor. Even when you inconvenience them. Fixed it for you. You're the a-hole. If I were him, I'd never sit for you again. You forgot to add my babysitter who I was going to pay canceled. Opie, you're the a-hole in a way you will regret. Now your brother-in-law won't be available as a backup in emergencies in the future, and you will be out of luck. Opie's in for a real surprise when he tries randomly dropping the kid off again, and brother-in-law calls CPS for an abandoned child. You're the a-hole. He said he couldn't watch her. You dumped her on him anyway. He had to cancel paid work. He is not trying to profit from you. He is trying to recoup his losses. Accusing the brother-in-law of being greedy and opportunist, when this man is out here trying to force other people to miss out on work and provide him free labor. Yikes. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You lost me when he told you he had to tutor and you told him to skip that. Like what? Now, I never charged for babysitting my family, but I also would not have tolerated someone telling me to change my plans last minute to accommodate their emergency. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying I told you so when my wife got banned from seeing our grandson? My wife has been in constant contact with our daughter-in-law, our son's wife, about plenty of things. The very recent argument ensued after my wife kept insisting on being present in the delivery room despite getting a resounding no. My wife was having none of it, and my son and his wife changed hospitals to throw my wife off after she threatened to barge into the room. She eventually found out I didn't tell her and got very mad. I told her to stop and think, because if she keeps this up, she will lose all chances to see her grandbaby. She told me off and went to make a huge scene at a hospital my daughter-in-law was at. It did not end well, and my wife came home crying hysterically after getting chewed out by our son and kicked out of the hospital. Things remained tense till my son called to invite me to see the baby for the first time. He did not invite my wife, which sent her into a mental breakdown. I had an argument with her after she tried to guilt me into staying with her and shame my son for keeping his mom away from her grandbaby. But I just told her I told you so, and said that she had plenty of opportunities to get right with our daughter-in-law, but she blew them away because of her stubbornness. She started yelling about how unsupportive and cruel I was, just like our son to be siding against her instead of defending her, and staying home with her when our son banned her from meeting our grandbaby. I went anyway, and she kept arguing about me taking the wrong side instead of defending her. I feel bad for her, but at the same time, I think that she was being irrational and made this a competition, despite knowing how our son and his wife felt about her behavior. Not stay home. I'd consider a divorce over this, to be perfectly honest. I mean, honestly, she has effectively ruined all future holidays. What the hell? Your wife is being so irrational here, I'm a little worried for her. Is she this way about other things, or is this new behavior for her? You might want to see a medical professional with her. Not stay home. I was also wondering the same thing. This is off the charts crazy. Not stay home. There's been similar posts like this in AITA and Just No Mother-in-Law. And I'm so interested to know, cause it's never from the husband/father-in-law's perspective. Why on earth do you stay with this woman? Seriously, this can't be an isolated component of her personality, because this behavior is a pattern and an extreme one at that. So please, I gotta know, why are you remaining married to such a selfish jerk? Money, most likely. The older we get, the more difficult it is to divorce. Unless you've saved enough money for both parties to go separate ways, it can cause a financial blow to split your 401k and any other retirement savings in half. Sometimes it's easier to live with a certain amount of crazy, provided it isn't abusive, than to lose one's financial stability at an age where you don't have enough time to rebuild. Not stay home. I actually want to say thank you, because there are many husbands who would have thought that having their wives back meant going along with her badass crazy, and you are an example of how that simply isn't the case. Your wife is abusive to your daughter-in-law, and you refuse to play a part in that, so thank you. You raised your son well, because he had his wife's back when she was in a vulnerable position, and you had your wife's back by telling her she was being an a-hole when she needed to hear it, even though it didn't make a difference. Bravo, OP! Am I the a-hole for leaving my wife at a restaurant after she insulted me? Original post. My wife, 31 female, and I were at a restaurant to celebrate a big milestone in my career. I was talking about my career in voice acting, which I absolutely love, before she decided to insult me by saying, "You should be a mime instead, so no one has to hear you talking anymore." My wife always makes a lot of jokes like these, basically insulting me, which I usually don't pay too much attention to. This joke in particular really hurt me, because I used to be very self-conscious about my voice due to being bullied for years about the way I used to speak. So this hit me really hard. She also knows this was a hard point in my life, and it was very hard to get past it. After she said this, I just said, "Are you serious?" before standing up abruptly and walking away. I didn't tell her where I was going, but I drove to my studio and have been here for the past few hours. She has been blowing up my phone with calls and messages about leaving her at the restaurant to pay the bill. It was an expensive restaurant, and I usually pay for our outings as I make more money, and for leaving her stranded since I took the car when I left. I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. As my wife always says, this is just her sense of humor, and that I need to stop being a snowflake. But she is blowing up my phone, calling me immature for leaving over a joke. Am I the a-hole for leaving her at the restaurant? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Does she even like you? It's not a joke if no one's laughing. I would like to think so, because we have been married for almost 5 years. She never used to make jokes like this before, so I'm not really sure what happened. Someone said this week, a joke at the expense of someone is only funny if the subject of the joke is laughing about it. She's mean to you without any reason. What does she get from making this type of comments? Not the a-hole. Your wife is a bully. Who is upset that you finally stood up to her and showed up her poor behavior? She belittles you via her so-called sense of humor to make her feel better about herself. I would hope that this might make her think about her behavior in future, but I doubt it. Bullies never change. They just become more subtle or find a new target. You need to have a good long think about the whole relationship. My ex-wife would do this stuff all the time, and I didn't fully recognize it as abusive until after we split. In my case, it ended up getting so awful she would joke nearly every day about me ending my life and making it look like an accident so she would get insurance money. And where I finally decided to draw a line with her was the fact that nobody else was around to laugh at her biting wit. So who was this joke for? Certainly not for you. Was the server laughing? Meanwhile, if someone was around to laugh, what's the joke? You get to feel humiliated and exposed? I don't blame you for walking out. This stuff escalates over time until you just can't sit there and take it. Whoa, I'm happy for you that you left. Someone has joked like that to someone I loved and then started getting physical. I truly cannot take those jokes as less than legit threats. Good on you for figuring out you deserve respect. I hate to say it, but she initiated the end of things. But we worked together and still had to cohabitate, and that's when I put my foot down about the jokes. When we were together romantically, I could tell myself, healthy couples roast each other. But I realized how ugly it all was when there was no love left and the jokes kept coming. That's when I finally put my foot down and said, it's not a joke if you really feel that way. That it was totally inappropriate now, and I didn't have to put up with it. That stuff finally stopped. The self-respect and self-love came later, while I looked back on everything and saw how I treated myself. I know it sounds wrong, but for my sanity, I had to take some responsibility. I allowed myself to be treated that way and talked myself out of leaving so many times. I had to face that so I wouldn't do it to myself again. I hope your friend is out of that situation. I will admit, there was a lot of fist slamming and throwing things in my relationship, so yeah, that kind of aggression escalates. Hope things are better for your friend, as they are better for me. Now for the update. To answer a few comments I got, my wife is unemployed and has been for the past few years. She was working in a very toxic company and ended up leaving due to it taking a toll on her mental health. I don't care that she is unemployed, as my salary is enough to support both of us comfortably. The restaurant was only a 10-minute drive away from our home, and she had the house keys, so she was not locked outside. My wife and I have known each other since we were teenagers and have been married for 5 years. We have always gotten along well, but things have steadily been going downhill since she became unemployed. I introduced my wife to playing games online after she lost her job, since she had a lot of free time and didn't know what to do. I thought we could bond over this, and I even ended up buying her a complete setup. As time has gone on, my schedule has gotten a lot busier, and she has been spending most of her time online, and honestly, has seemed quite disconnected from reality. We have had many arguments about her change in attitude and lack of interest in our relationship. Most of the time when we talk or if I tell her about something good that has happened to me, she says something out of pocket, but always ends up playing it off as a joke if I press on it. Despite this, she is also very lovely and sweet sometimes, so don't think of her as a bad person. Anyway, for the update, I ended up messaging my wife while I was at my studio, saying that I wanted to take some time to think first, and that I would be coming back home in the morning to talk with her about what happened. I also apologized for leaving her and not telling her where I was going, but she didn't reply, which is a little unusual considering she had been blowing up my phone. I got pretty worried that something had happened to her, so I ended up driving back home at around 2 to 3 a.m. I found her drinking alcohol at home. I've had a suspicion for a while that my wife has been drinking secretly, but every time I try to ask her about it, she changes the topic or avoids me. When she saw me, she asked why I came back home and said she didn't want to see me. She seemed pretty drunk, so I tried to give her some water and sober her up a little, but she just knocked it out of my hands and started yelling at me, saying I embarrassed her, that I'm ruining everything for her, and throwing a lot of insults. After her outburst, she locked herself away in her bedroom. I ended up looking through her PC. I'm not proud of that, after seeing a few comments that she could be cheating on me or that she resents me, and I found that she has been sending nudes to multiple different people online. I haven't really spoken to her since that happened, or brought up what I found. This happened a few days ago. We've only said a few words here and there since that night, I have been staying at my studio for as long as I can each day since this happened. I don't know how to face my wife or even look at her anymore. It's gotten to the point where I can't even focus on my work properly anymore. A lot of comments pointed out the abuse, and after really evaluating the relationship and how I've been treated these last few years, I can really see it. I was so blinded and kept thinking to myself that things would somehow get better. But I think it's best to take some time to myself now. I've spoken to a few lawyers about divorce, but I'm still waiting. I'm not sure where my wife will live or how she will support herself since I have been supporting her financially, so I'm still trying to work things out. This will probably be the only update I make regarding this situation, so thank you again to everyone who commented and supported me. My dude, it sounds like your partner has hit a serious low point and needs help. The question is, are you going to be willing to put up with the toxic behavior she, or more accurately, her likely depression, is going to throw at you? I've been on the other side of a similar situation and got dropped like the pile of burning trash that I was at the time. I'm not advising it, but I just want to warn you. She sounds depressed and like she's self-medicating, trying to find meaning in much of anything. You've got your career and job, so she may very well feel like she's a burden on you and holding you back, which may feed into the self-destructive behaviors she's currently showing. Whether or not you choose to stay with her, and I do hope you choose to stay, get her into some counseling as soon as humanly possible. Take a few days off and make yourself unavoidable. Make her aware that she is part of your life and that you want to make sure she's okay. Depression spirals are ugly things, and it sounds like you're seeing the long-term effects here, according to a random internet stranger. The time where the small transgressions stop giving that dopamine hit, she may move into more serious transgressions. Sit down with her and have a very long, sober talk about everything. Don't force her, but make it extremely difficult for her to passively avoid it. She sounds like they're in the depths of self-loathing. A helping hand may be all she needs to start climbing her way out. Either way, good luck, and go in kindness. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when we were teenagers and has been on medication, so I've already dealt with mood swings for basically the whole time I've known her. It probably would have been helpful to include this in the post. Since we started having so many problems, I've suggested for her to see a therapist multiple times, and even found a few for her, but she didn't want to. I care about her, but I don't deserve to be treated like this. She has betrayed me and has walked all over me for quite a while now. I understand she is having a bad time, but I have done everything I can and more to try and help her. I can't force her to get help if she doesn't want to be helped in the first place. OP, you definitely deserve a better partner than that. Wife left her job because it was toxic. Maybe she was the toxic atmosphere. Either it was toxic and hurt people, or she felt attacked whenever anyone called her out on her BS because she was at it constantly. I hope OP gets out. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law she married the wrong brother? My brother, let's call him Russell, and I are complete opposites. I was always the academically smart one. I graduated from a top university and now make a great income working as an engineer. Russell is more of the typical American man. He's a Navy SEAL, loves his beer, and is loud. He had a series of relationships in his early 20s that went nowhere, and for the longest time in our family, we joked that he would probably be the last one to get married, if ever. Well, when he was 25, he met my sister-in-law, Christina. They met at a library when he failed a pickup line and she made fun of him for it. They talked for a bit, and then he asked for her number. The rest is history. Christina is absolutely gorgeous. She's a beautiful brunette with blue eyes, tall, and looks like a French model. She's also very smart, as she's an aerospace engineer and loves books and old movies as much as I do. We get along quite well, and mostly talk about nerdy stuff when we're in the same room. My parents love her too. She gets along with my dad more since she's probably the only person in our family who actually enjoys hearing his stories 500 times. I'll be honest, I didn't think their relationship would go far, at least not to marriage, but they did. They got married last week. During a family dinner at my mom's house, Christina made a joke about how their weekends are mostly spent either hiking or doing some sort of physical activity, which she doesn't like, but loves it since she knows Russell loves it. Russell laughed and said it's good for both of them. I joked that she should have ended up with a nerd like me, since I would get her more. My parents and other siblings laughed, and my dad agreed, saying he couldn't believe she chose Russell over his other sons. But I stopped when I realized Russell wasn't laughing, and neither was Christina. I apologized quickly, and Russell just told me to drop it. They left and didn't stay for dessert. Christina reached out to me and told me she didn't appreciate my comment, and that I should know Russell is perfect for her. Russell hasn't spoken to me since. My parents think he took it to heart and is being dramatic, but my sisters said we might have hurt his feelings, and now I'm feeling like an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. You reek of ego, condescension, and a superiority complex. That wasn't a joke. A joke is intended to make the recipient laugh. You made a jab at him that fell into I want to sleep with your wife territory, and now you're shocked that he's mad as heck? Cue the shocked Pikachu face and stark lack of self-awareness. Not just sleep with your wife, but also you're not worthy of your wife, and she should leave you for me because I'm clearly the better choice over you. Like OP has never heard of opposites attracting. She clearly thinks having the opposite as her husband is good for her, and being pushed to do things she'd never really try. Like hiking, even if most of the enjoyment comes from spending time with her husband. And everybody agrees with me? What an a-hole. You're the a-hole. You come off as super jealous and you made both of them uncomfortable. Honestly, it was a pretty nasty thing to say. Your brother got her, not you. Time to come to terms with it. The jealousy and overcompensation for his true feelings of inadequacy is very clear. He is upset that his brother, who he allegedly believes is beneath him, although he probably knows is a better choice, found a woman whom he wants, but loves his brother. It's pathetic. And yeah, OP, you're the a-hole. Maybe work on your self-esteem and whatever issues have led you to be petty and bitter. Your family are a-holes too, for laughing and joining in. The brother will either be retired as a SEAL with a very nice pension and benefits in 10 years, then have the entire rest of his life to pursue another career, or he'll go lifelong military and end up with a pretty high rank and lots of opportunities for travel and respect. And a hot wife that OP can't have. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my neighbor I dated her husband? Original post. I, 33 female, became friendly with my neighbor, 37 female. Let's call her Emily, after I helped her move a few boxes into our building, while her husband, 35 male, was in the hospital. I didn't meet Emily's husband until a few weeks later, when she invited me over for dinner as thanks. When I arrived first, Emily's husband had run out to pick up some wine, but when he came back, I was shocked to see Matt, a guy I had gone on 3 dates with a year ago, before he suddenly ghosted me. He had a terrible poker face and tried to pretend like he didn't recognize me, but I don't play those games. I asked how long they had been married, and Emily said 3 years. She recognized there was tension and asked if we knew each other. He said no. I said yes, and told Emily that I had gone on dates with him a year ago. She became very upset and asked me to leave, which I did. The next day, Emily reached out and said that she didn't appreciate that I lied about when I dated her husband. He told her we had dated 4 years ago, before they were married. I didn't even live in this city 4 years ago, and even if we had dated 4 years ago, they had been engaged at that point. Either way, he would have been cheating. I sent her screenshots of our texts from the year before, and from Bumble. His profile was still active. She never responded, but when I saw her in the lobby yesterday, she wouldn't even look me in the eye. I don't know if they're still together, and Emily hasn't responded to my texts. So, am I the a-hole for telling her the truth? You told her the info she did need to hear, now just let the pieces fall where they will. Do not engage further, not the a-hole. You are being honest, but it's best to leave her alone now. If I was Emily, I would probably ask you to leave too, because I wouldn't want you to witness me screaming at my cheating dirtbag of a husband. Not the a-hole. You did the right thing. Mini update. Emily just stopped by. We had a quick chat, but she let me know that she's kicked Matt out and she thanked me for telling the truth. She also found out that I was not the only person he dated while they were married. Giving her space now, but wanted to share an update since it happened so quickly after posting. Glad she's not mad at you and she kicked that a-hole out. Right? So often the woman gets all the blame. For some, it's so much easier to blame the woman who a man cheated with rather than the actual cheater. Glad she was more level-headed than that. So glad for this. I can totally understand how her first reaction was to stand by her husband, showing her love for him. He definitely doesn't deserve her. But then coming around and facing the facts. You definitely saved that woman from a life of misery. I think/hope she knows that, and hopefully in time she'll truly appreciate you. She's understandably very hurt now, but so much better off because of you. Update. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my mother-in-law after she made a joke about poking holes in our condoms? Original post. I, 38 female, have been with my husband James for 4 years. We're both child-free and don't plan to have kids in the future. When we first got married, we explained this to our families. My family was fine with it, but his wasn't. Especially my mother-in-law. I'll call her Mary for privacy. She is passive-aggressive or outright tells us we'll change our mind soon. For example, she'll say things like, "I can't wait to be a grandma," even though we've made it clear that we don't want children. If we try to respond, she just pretends not to hear us. This has made me very uncomfortable, and I've told my husband multiple times, but he just brushes it off, saying she'll accept it eventually. However, things came to a head recently. James was hosting a dinner party and invited his family as well as mine. While we were eating, my mother-in-law jokingly said, "You know, I've thought about poking holes in your and James's rubbers so I could be a grandma. It's so smart and you'd never know," before laughing. I was horrified. After that, I excused myself and left the house. James followed, saying I was being dramatic and that it was just a joke. I told him it wasn't funny and asked what would happen if she actually did something like that. We argued for a bit before he stormed back inside and I drove off. I've since blocked my mother-in-law on all social media and deleted her number. Now the whole family is furious with me, calling me sensitive and paranoid. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Mother-in-law's comments, including the one about the rubbers, have all been way over the line and squarely in the none of your business category. Your husband should have handled this with his mother quite a while ago. Now he has no choice. Tell your husband the reason you have gone to the lengths you have gone. Leaving the dinner, blocking his mother on social media, and deleting her are all because he is failing to safeguard you from her. This is his responsibility because it is his mother. He needs to stop brushing it off. He needs to go see her face to face and say, "Mom, you are hurting me when you press us for grandkids. We are not having children. That's my final decision." You need to stop mentioning it to either one of us. By mentioning it at dinner, you cross the line and you need to apologize. To never speak of us having kids in front of us again. Yes, but he won't confront Mom. I think you need to tell him with his threat from mother-in-law. Either he needs a vasectomy, minor surgery, or you need to get your tubes tied, more invasive surgery. It's an easily fixable situation, Opie. Tell hubby to get the snip. His reaction will tell you why he won't shut his mama down. You're not being sensitive, you're being sane. That's not a joke, it's a threat. And your husband needs to get his head out of his butt. If he won't stand up to his mom, he's part of the problem. Get that snip, Opie. You deserve better than this. Question. Why don't one of you get fixed if you're adamant on not having kids? It's my husband who refuses to get a procedure done. I've already offered to get my tubes tied and other procedures, but he says he's not ready yet and doesn't want me to get surgery either until we're both ready. We're referring to him because I'm only waiting on him right now. He wants kids. Yep, he's on his mommy's side. Completely. Now for the update a few days later. After everything that happened, I had a talk with my husband last night about wanting him to take a stronger step toward our commitment to being child-free. I told him that unless he got a vasectomy or a similar procedure, I wouldn't be comfortable sleeping with him. I want him to show he can stand up to his mother and that he is as committed to being child-free as I am. Although honestly, I started doubting that after posting the first story. Not in a rude way, of course. My husband said he still wasn't ready and that I was moving too fast. He added that by asking him to stand up to his mother, I was essentially asking him to disrespect her for my sake. At that point, I asked him directly if he wanted kids or not, telling him to stop beating around the bush because I would divorce him and disappear if he didn't. That finally got him to open up, and he admitted that he did want kids, and had secretly been hoping for either an accident or that I would change my mind, just as many of you in the comments had predicted. But what really shocked me was when he confessed he'd actually considered tampering with our birth control before, but just hadn't done through with it yet. It now made sense why he only wanted to use rubbers for our birth control. After that, I told him that, as of now, our marriage was over and that I would be filing for divorce as soon as possible. I made sure to tell him that any child I could have had would never be in his or my mother-in-law's grasp. He tried to protest, but I was firm on leaving. Honestly, he was planning to baby trap me. Nice try, but not with me. Right now, I'm staying at my sister's house. I'm planning to find a lawyer to start the divorce proceedings, but I know I can't go back to that house with him or my mother-in-law involved in any way. This entire situation has left me feeling very shaken and worried. Why? Just why? Why would you get into a relationship with someone who doesn't want kids if you want kids? I cannot understand people like this man. How stupid it is to get into a relationship hoping your partner will change their minds. These are stupid people. Planning on tampering with birth control? Now that's just diabolical. My ex-husband thought I will change my mind. I made extra sure current husband also didn't want kids, been together for almost 20 years now and child-free. Now hold on a second. If he tries to change your mind about divorce, tell him that you'll stay on the condition that he signs the form for you to get your tubes tied. Either way, you'll get divorced. But at least you won't have to worry about kids in the next relationship because you'll just let them know your tubes are tied. He'll probably end the marriage or cheat on you and get some dumb broad pregnant. That's freaking genius. The fact that you have to have a husband sign off on it is utterly stupid. But this is one way to get it done. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my wife spend money on her best friend? My wife has known her best friend since middle school. Her friend is a lawyer and her family's quite well off. She makes a lot and is generous with it. My wife has had a few things paid for by her friend. Specifically, she covered my wife's portion of her bachelorette trip because the other friends didn't make much and she covered it. She also paid part of my wife's rent twice, and she usually picks up the bill when they go out for food. This friend is now marrying a doctor and I don't think they have any trouble paying for anything they want. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and I'm a mechanic. I recently brought home a $3,000 bonus, and when I told my wife, she immediately started talking about buying her friend a really expensive necklace from a brand she knows her friend wants. She showed it to me, and the cheapest necklace is $2,000 on a website. She insisted I should spend the bonus on a wedding gift for her friend. I shut her down and told her it's my bonus and that she can't expect me to buy her friend something this expensive. I don't think wedding gifts should even exceed $100. She began arguing, saying that I spend money on lunches out and hobbies that cost a lot. So why can't she spend some money on a gift for her friend? I do spend a bit on my hobbies and have 2 cars, but I also work hard. Plus, her friend and her fiancé, who is a doctor, already own a house while we were still renting. I told her she was being unreasonable, and she insists we sit down and tally everything I've spent on myself in the last year. If it's higher than $2,000, she thinks I should pay for the necklace. I think it's ridiculous to compare my spending to an extravagant gift for her friend, and I'm refusing to let her buy it. She insists her friend has spent a lot on her, and argues that we saved money because her friend pays for meals and activities whenever they go out, so it doesn't come out of our money. I get that the unbalanced relationship isn't ideal, but my wife could decline expensive outings if she wanted to even things out. Now, she's refusing to talk to me, and I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole here. Not the a-hole for refusing to buy your wife's friend an expensive gift that costs more than half of your $3,000 bonus. However, you may be the a-hole if there's an unequal distribution of money and limited input from your wife on how it's spent. When one spouse stays at home, the breadwinner can't lay total claim to the income. It's not my money versus our money. Supporting a stay-at-home spouse requires more than just covering basic needs, while unilaterally spending on hobbies and multiple vehicles, especially if you're also frustrated about renting instead of owning. Your wife has a valid reason to question your cumulative fun money expenses. If you're genuinely concerned about whether you're the a-hole, it could help to sit down and tally up everything you've spent on yourself this year. You might find she has a point and that you're spending significantly on yourself while she gets very little. Some might even see this as financial control, considering the power dynamic in play. As the breadwinner, you hold much of the leverage. The devil is in the details. Without the history or context, OP is obviously not wrong. But these kinds of posts tend to hit on other concerning things that could be worse than what he is defending himself from. Not guaranteed at all, but this should raise a few eyebrows at least. The devil is in the details. For sure, it always is. But this definitely raised my eyebrow. It sounds like the necklace is really a straw man argument for a much bigger gripe his wife has about how finances are split. OP, my husband was a stay-at-home dad when our boys were young because I generated a significantly larger income from my growing business. And we agreed that as long as the kids were with one of us, it didn't matter who. After we had twins, they went to daycare 1 day a week because he literally had his hands full. From the start, we agreed on an equal amount for hobby money/fun money for each of us, despite our income disparity. We could spend this money as we wished. It was where birthday gifts for each other came from. All other money was considered joint funds for bills, savings, pensions, etc. My question to you is, why do you believe you deserve hobby money because you work hard, but your wife doesn't? Believe me, I worked 16-hour days in the beginning getting things off the ground, and even with just one child at a time, I realized I had an easier deal. My husband couldn't take a break unless the baby was sleeping. He was exhausted from constantly watching for safety issues, choking hazards, making baby food, feeding, playing, reading stories, and walking the floor when our son was teething or had cramps. We both did night duty, so we were both tired, but he had no let up. He loved being a stay-at-home dad, but once our younger two started school, he was also rather relieved. He said, "I wouldn't have missed those years for the world, but I never ever want to do them again." Parenting alone with small kids is a job, and a stressful one at that. Why does your job deserve a hobby fun, but hers does not? Your wife deserves money she can save up and spend on a gift for her friend. Money she doesn't need your permission to spend, just as you don't ask her permission to spend your hobby money. If you don't see that, and clearly you don't, then it means you don't recognize her work and the efforts she put into the job of raising your children as having any value. You're essentially saying you don't see it as work. If I were your wife, I'd not only be angry, but I'd also feel completely demeaned. Shame on you. Most definitely you're the a-hole. Opie said that the best friend has covered his wife's portion of the rent on 2 separate occasions. How the heck does that work if his wife is a stay-at-home mom with no income? And even if she does have some sort of income, maybe an online presence, or she does some type of freelance work online or whatever, why would OP ever let someone else cover his wife's portion of the rent? It makes 0 sense. 100% agree that the OP is the a-hole. Every single element of this post and OP's reply just reek of it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my disabled cousin at my wedding? I, 26 female, am getting married soon to my amazing fiancé Liam, 30 male, and I'm struggling with whether or not to invite my cousin Tom, 29 male. Tom has a developmental disability, and while he is almost 30, he has the intellectual capacity of about a 7-year-old. I've always tried to be patient and understanding, but he has consistently crossed physical boundaries with me in ways that make me really uncomfortable. I've always been an early bloomer and have a larger than average chest. Because of the sports I did in high school and continue to this day, I would say I'm in good shape. I only mention this because it's often the reason my family uses to justify Tom's behavior. Over the years, Tom has touched my chest and butt quite a few times. He's also hugged me tightly and tried to kiss me, and even though I immediately told him to stop each time, it never seems to stick. He tells his caretakers, nurses, and even live-in caregivers that I'm his girlfriend. He doesn't like Liam because he insists Liam isn't my fiancé, believing instead that he is my boyfriend. Tom also talks about how he will marry me. It kind of feels like when a little kid tells their parent they're going to marry them, but it's still very uncomfortable. I've brought this up with my family, but they always downplay it, saying Tom doesn't understand and that he's just showing affection. The excuse they most often use is, he's a little boy in a man's body, and you're a conventionally attractive woman. When I told my mom how uncomfortable it makes me, she said it probably entertained his behavior too much, and that is harmless. She insists I should just be firm, but anytime I've tried, the family accuses me of being mean to him. With my wedding coming up, I want the day to be relaxed and special without constantly worrying about Tom overstepping boundaries. When I told my family that I was considering not inviting him, they were outraged. They said I was being unfair, cruel, and that he'd be devastated not to come. My mom even said it would ruin his day and make it obvious that he's different, which it thinks is heartless. I understand that Tom can't help certain behaviors, but I feel like my family has completely ignored my feelings on this. They always brush off my discomfort and say it's my responsibility to manage it, or that he doesn't know any better. But it's my wedding, and I don't want to be on edge the whole time. Liam says I have every right not to invite him, especially because of how he treats both of us, as though our relationship isn't real. Still, I wonder if I'm being too harsh or unkind, since Tom isn't fully aware of boundaries and doesn't really know what he's doing is bad or harmful, especially because his parents and other family members encourage it. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If he is a little boy in a man's body, there should be no problem finding someone to look after him. The fact they say you probably entertain him and that this would ruin his day is a hill I would die on. It's not his day, and they have been enabling his behavior for too long. If he can't help his behavior because of his disability, he should have a caretaker that looks after him. He does have caretakers. And my family doesn't like my fiancé because he stepped in between me and my cousin and yelled at him until he cried. You should have eloped. It sounds like the only one on your side is your fiancé. My grandparents are supportive. Both of them are in their late 70s and I didn't elope because they wanted to watch me get married. My grandfather is walking me down the aisle and I'm wearing my grandmother's wedding dress. Can you take your grandparents with you when you elope so they are part of your special day? It sounds like you care too much about people who don't care about you. Make it a special day with your grandparents and forget everyone else. This could also keep you from wasting a ton of money on an event that is just going to make you anxious. My grandparents couldn't stop Tom, but he isn't allowed in their house. I think the first time I saw my granddad cry was the day that I told him Tom had been touching me. I was 13, and he just held me and apologized over and over for not noticing. My grandma has threatened to go after Tom with a rolling pin if he comes in her house again. They're the only two family members who have never made excuses for him. The thing is, both of them are unable to travel long distances. They're getting older and wouldn't be able to come if I eloped.